So welcome to the second half of our evening, and welcome if you're watching this on YouTube. So tonight I will introduce you to the Triratna system of practice. So this is the first of 3 evenings when we go a little more deeply into some topics of meditation. So topics that we don't have time for in the second half of the evening when we introduce and lead the meditation. So this evening is really an overview of the whole system of practice. So our teacher Sangharakshita has given us this system of meditation, which also expands out to become a system of practice in all aspects of our spiritual life. In this system, there are 4 progressive stages and a 5th stage we might call stageless stage. And this system of practice constitutes the framework of the Triratna approach to meditation. So Sangharakshita defines meditation as follows. Meditation enables the mind to work directly on itself in order to refine the quality of one's conscious experience, and in this way to raise one's whole level of consciousness. So Sangharakshita is saying that meditation is about raising our level of consciousness. The first 2 stages of the system of practice form the indispensable foundation of our current and future development in terms of meditation. So the meditation practices at these stages are calming practices. They work to harmonize our consciousness. And we are familiar with mindfulness of breathing and metta bhavana, which are practices at these first 2 stages. The first stage then is the stage of integration. And it begins with basic mindfulness of body and mind. So bodily awareness of sensations and feelings, and awareness of our basic mental makeup, getting to know our own nature and how it has been conditioned by our family and our culture. So at this stage, we work on integration of the self so that our energies all flow in the same direction, that we become more self-aware. So meditation doesn't stand alone and separate from ethics and wisdom. So the threefold way of ethics, meditation, and wisdom that we base this 17-week series on is an integrated system in itself. So the 3 folds, as it were, are being developed at the same time. So we are only really able to be acting skillfully if we know ourselves and if we take account of who we are. So last week I mentioned Sangharakshita's teaching of the 4 levels of mindfulness. So awareness of our surroundings and things in it, awareness of self, of our body, of emotions and our thoughts, awareness of others, and awareness of reality. So at this stage of integration, we can obviously practice the mindfulness of breathing, but we can also work on becoming aware of those 4 levels. Mindfulness is an antidote to doubt and distraction. So the second stage then is the stage of positive immersion. And it is about developing skillful positive mental states. It's about refining our being. And of course, the Metta Bhavana is our familiar practice, Metta being the fundamental positive immersion. Positive immersion is strongly linked with being ethical. And when we practice at this stage, we can expect to become more sympathetic, to experience a deeper harmony with others. And at this stage, we also develop our aesthetic sensibility. We develop our self-confidence, and we are more likely to dwell in superconscious states more often. And metta is the obvious antidote to hatred. Being in positive mental states brings inspiration and enthusiasm onto our spiritual path as well. The practices on the next two stages are insight practices. So through the cultivation of insight, we're able to see through the mistake of thinking that our self is somehow independent and fixed. And insight breaks through that mistake, that illusion. So I won't have quite as much to say about these last two progressive stages. Just a few notes. So the third stage is the stage of vision, or the stage of letting go of the illusion of independent self. It opens us up to the truth of how things really are, especially the truth of egolessness. So the fourth stage then is the stage of transformation or renewal. And in the practices of this stage, we dwell on visionary experiences. We engage with archetypal imagination. And we experience a birth of a new, as it were, more enlightened personality. So finally then, there is the stageless stage of just sitting, or the stage of no more practice. So here we make no effort to bring anything into being. We simply allow things to unfold. And this is, of course, a familiar practice to us as well. We just sit at the end of most of our meditation practices. And the purpose of the just sitting is to bring balance. It balances effort and receptivity for us. So for the sake of ease of understanding, I've presented the 5 stages as separate stages, but this is a system where all the 5 stages form a harmonious whole. So in the early stages of our spiritual life, the practices of the integration and positive immersion stages are vital. They prepare our mind. They make our mind robust enough to cope with the potentially devastating truth of insight. But that's not to say that mindfulness of breathing and Metta Bhavana don't have already the seed of insight in them. If we take those practices far enough, insights will arise. So let's have a look at the slide of the practice that the system of practice that I have introduced to you. And there's a lot of information. I've given you a lot of information, and you don't need to remember much of it. And if it all seems a bit much to you, I thought I might finish with giving you Sangharachita's suggestion for our everyday practice. And this is very straightforward. I think is particularly apt at this time, and it echoes the system of practice I've introduced this evening. So Sangharachita says, be as mindful and aware and as together as possible. Remain in as positive a mental state as you can. Don't lose sight of your goal, and do what you can to help others. So that's the everyday practice for us to take away from this evening.